just to make this even weirder, I found another connection. So we've got, alongside all the news that's going on, there's this mushroom trial of this person, which is so weird. It's such an anomalous story to be getting. It's up, with all these massive things happening in the world. We've got this strange woman, Erin Patterson, who's accidentally poisoned her family, which happened to be named the Wilkinsons, which is my mother's maiden name, my grandfather's family, Wilkinson. Not making any strange connections there yet. I'm just saying that is another strange thing. And what I find even stranger is if you've been around agriculture at all or lived in rural areas, you'll know of a plant that is probably more than likely in Australia the most well-known poisonous plant, which is called Patterson's Curse, which was named after supposedly the family who planted it in their garden. Now, what you might not know as well is that this plant was first called Salvation Jane. Apparently in South Africa it was called Salvation Jane because it was thought to be an amazingly beneficial fodder crop for cattle. And then it turned out to poison those cattle. That seems a bit odd. It seems like a little bit of an odd coincidence. Now, a lot of these families are coming from Scotland and Ireland. I don't know whether this is more proof that there is a maybe dormant, unconscious, historic feud system going on that is inherited not from nurture so much. I was never nurtured into any conflicts or rivalries, but I continuously keep finding myself opposed down the lines of these historic clan feuds. And then to just add it up, to tie it up to yesterday's observation about the Cameron family, who had Dr. Ewan Cameron in Canada and in the United States, the first head chief of the Psychiatric Board International, who participated in torture and was clearly criminally insane and experimenting on people in hideous ways. It includes sleep deprivation, priming, and drug abuse, which, if we understand that these drugs, the majority of them are plant-derived drugs. So this is sorcery. This is a continuation of sorcery that has gone all the way up to the pharmaceutical industry and now has a methodology behind it. This is ancient chemical source. This is witchcraft. Would be described as this if this was taking place in Africa, but this is continuing around the entire world in plain sight. Now, I'm going to note that when I do a search for Ewan McGregor, it's not Ewan McGregor, sorry, that's someone else, Ewan Cameron, Dr. Ewan Cameron, I've found two other Dr. Ewan Camerons. One was a poisonous plant expert in New Zealand. There we go again. And the next one was doing an interview of a woman in Scotland whose name was, who goes by the name Leah Boston, I think it was, Leah Boston, or Leah Brooklyn, that might be a stage name, I'm not sure, who clearly seemed to be expressing signs that she had been attempted to be kind of initiated into this intergalactic pharmaceutical cult. I know this sounds crazy, but it's not really all that crazy. I think that this NASA Nazi pharmaceutical plant cult has been undertaking basically mass cult formation using the most potent psychiatric and psychedelic medicines under the veil of limitation. So the government has then limited these things, which has left the only people to practice this would be practitioners in the falsely labelled psychiatric industry, who have been participating in mass drugging and mass brainwashing of vast amounts of people for a very long time. And they have created a kind of space, fantasy, Scientology-esque pseudo-religion that links itself to our historic kind of animistic, Celtic, Druidic roots that I believe are maybe dormant within our system, and it is priming them to express that through their lens of this kind of intergalactic colonization, UFO kind of strange thing that they would have the ability to completely control. It surprises me every time anyone speaks about these things in the sky. And one thing that they'll be like, oh, it appeared and then it disappeared. It appeared and then it disappeared. And this is like literally a phenomenon that is as simple as a drone or a balloon that has an on-off switch on a light. And that is enough to convince these people of this, or prime them into this complete fiction that has been spoon-fed to them via this cult. For a long time now, this is multi-generational cult formation. This is an attempt to create a global religion that actually is just hijacking animistic kind of... I'll just note here, look at that. It's 1:11, and there's two lions facing each other down on a red wall. Yeah, I just thought that was cool. It says Graffiti Mundo. But, there's a clear attempt to create a intergalactic space cult that is provably just using psychedelic, psychiatric brainwashing techniques to implant either an idea of constant perpetual illness. Look, there's a giant owl. Owl eyes bordello. I don't know. Oops. This is a hijacking of animistic Celtic culture. Now, I'm not going to allude to who would have had a vested interest and who has a history of doing that type of thing, because I believe even if it was funded by certain organised religious institutions, it's gotten outside of their control, and now it's kind of self-driven, and it is clearly an attempt to create a type of religion that has been attempted by the Nazis for as long as there have been Nazis. They've been attempting to create a religion, and this seems to be it. There is, in my constant experience, my constant interaction with the world and with my mind and with my well-being, there is no need to ever... The moment I went away from this being a type of UFO thing, which I could not prove to being just a kind of all-powerful God, that's where everything starts making sense. It's like this when too many details are filled in, then that's where the problem starts. Because the more I've gotten comfortable with the possibility of everything under a figure that is best called God or Allah, whatever religion you're in, the more I get out of strict doctrine, especially of these new cult-like doctrines to do with UFOs, to do with other star systems, all this stuff that is science fiction. I don't think there's a problem with it. With imagination. I do have a problem with a contrived attempt to enslave humanity with a clearly now conspiracy of religious cult creation. Yeah, there isn't a doubt in my mind. These drugs, these substances are so powerful. One of my worst experiences was a couple. They were actually participants in a reality TV show in Australia. They were friends of an ex-girlfriend of mine. They exposed me and the group of us to a powerful substance, dimethyltryptamine, and then participated in kind of a cult attack on me because this is their methodology. That should be a crime. If you are seen to be using, it's one thing selling a bag of weed or a bag of something. Here mate, here's your weed, here's your drugs. These are the criminals that our judicial system's going after. You know, that's one thing. But to supply these drugs along with this type of, you know, cult formation and this type of mobbing and this groupthink and this social reputation destroying, this sociopathic manipulation of groups and of people's opinions and things like this, that is a very serious crime. And it is not yet reflected in our legal system. This would not even be constituted as a crime. I think the one thing that at least the church has done is it has gotten away from that and has gotten to just like communion. It's not you're not getting a blast of DMT blown in your face. I do believe that there was historic ceremonies by very, very, very trained, very responsible, and a lot of kind of scrutiny on them to do these mass things in like Ulysses, I think it is, in Greece. But this was a communal, like organised, known thing that was very highly regulated and very kind of highly adjudicated. Whereas this willy-nilly shamanism, driven by this cult of popularity, I think is probably the most dangerous thing I've ever seen. And it is being, because it's what basically what Manson was doing. If you're drugging people and then you're not drugged, or you're familiar with the experience of being drugged and then you're kind of driving, this is actually what he called his torture. He called it psychic driving. He would drive people to actions. He would brag about being able to de-pattern people, to destroy their past version of themselves, to then inevitably create a pattern of subservience to his system where he was the leader. All interviews I can see talking about him, they describe him as this. Now, the fact that this is an entire creation of more than likely Nazis should be, we really need to go and dig through to how deep this is, how many decades we've had of this attempt. And I think the one benefit is they were so left alone, they were so kind of able to participate in this, that and so perpetually kind of gratified by victims that kind of in a Stockholm syndrome effect kind of were missing all of this, that they've become so comfortable that they've failed to perpetuate their cult with the same vigour that it would actually be required to. And so it's now been inherited by a global corporate structure, very socialist, kind of very avoidant to scrutiny, and is just exposed. The newest individuals participating in this, they're not the masterminds. This is what I said. This was masterminded by a few deeply, deeply like ill people suffering from the most severe of these mental things, and they have gained power over vast empires of administrations and medical practices and media and are more than likely either very old men dying or already dead, and the corpse of their creation is kind of now a monstrous structure that has no actual system. There is no pope. There's no pope of psychiatry. If there was, we could go and kill him. It's just a floating entity, and that's what's protecting him, is that there isn't, that they're kind of all getting together and protecting themselves, and not all getting together and go and scrutinising their own industry. And I can talk about this because I'm doing this with my industry. My industry is glass, and I'm scrutinising it. I'm attempting to do that. This is an old thing. This is guilds. The practitioners of the highest level skill set, which is what I'm representing, they should be integral in forming their entire industry from top to bottom, the entire system. And it should be based on that, not based on this held supply chain. And it's just a side effect of mass distribution and of the Industrial Revolution to be able to produce these mass quantities of products. And every single product or service that has been able to be mass industrialised and mass produced should be under the highest level of scrutiny. And it's not, because it makes up such a large proportion of the population. It's just building the empire around itself, and this is cause for alarm. It was cause for alarm 2,000 years ago, but we didn't have factories and computers and AI and social media bots and nuclear weapons and automatic weapons, and so the problem is ginormous. And I think that pill needs to be taken. The problem is ginormous. There is no solution but to slow down and scrutinise every single area, from top to bottom of our systems. These things that we've inherited from generations, with far less ability to speak up and far less awareness of the total environment, should not be held up as sacred. There are certain very core principles of humanity that should be held sacred, but no, a creation that's been started by Nazis and to this day perpetuates mass torture and mass societal degradation and mass death. It's the highest level. It's in plain sight. We just need to formulate the strategies and the structures to appropriately dissolve these industries. If there's a call at the moment, Elon Musk keeps making this call to dissolve Parliament. These corporations and these systems of care, they're no different than a system of Parliament. They should be able to have the same scrutiny projected onto them by a figure. And if this isn't going to be done by the Parliament, then we need to demand authority by a figure like the King to immediately dissolve these ginormous industries of torment that have emerged in this all men are created equal paradigm. Because if all men are created equal, then, as I said it the other day, who has authority to question large formations of those men? No one. Then if all men are equal, then all men are subject to servitude to a mob. We need to be able to assemble our own hierarchies of critique to combat these creations of self-interested, self-preservative participants in systems that continuously keep resulting to genocide.